So my name is Jim Lappin. I'm the director of the SIMPAS Applied Product Portfolio. And you may say, well, what is SIMPAS? It's an acronym. It stands for Smart Integrated Multi-Product Prescription Application System. It's an aftermarket system that can apply up to 3 products per row prescriptively. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the system and some of the products we use in the system. Our goal when we develop this system, and our development partner and distribution partner is Trimble. So we've used some of the Trimble software. We typically have been using Trimble monitors in the cab. It's an aftermarket system that bolts onto most planters, green, red, blue. It has specific brackets that allow it to be bolted or mounted on those different planters. Relatively easy to install, right? It bolts to existing systems. The footprint of the system, total unit cartridges with full product steel weighs about 110 pounds altogether per row. Every cartridge has a unique metering device, so you have row by row, cartridge by cartridge control. So this system is capable of applying a linear rate of a product across the field, something like a rootworm insecticide. You can apply a micronutrient as a variable rate across the field, or it can apply specific products at specific rates within specific management zones within the field. We are developing both granule and liquid solutions. The liquid cartridge fits into the same slot, so you can configure the system any way you'd like. Multiple granules, multiple liquids, or a combination, or switch back and forth between them. The granular system has a granular feed out the bottom through a meter system, and the liquid system has a peristaltic pump that mounts on the back. So each liquid cartridge would have its own tube that runs to the front. Think of it like an inkjet printer. When an inkjet printer applies ink to the page, it turns on and off, applying the right color in the right place to get the image you want. You load a shapefile into the system that you generate through your existing software for generating prescriptions, and this system executes it up to 10 miles an hour, 3 products per row. And because it's versatile, let's say you have a higher volume use product. Let's say I'm using a product like Counter Nematicide that's 6.5 pounds per acre. I can put and run 2 products or the same product through multiple cartridges. I have a grower up in New York State who's going to run 3 products of Force 10G. He figured out that if he puts 3 products of Force 10G on there at 1.4 pounds per acre on his 24-row planter, he's got 700 acres of product between fills. So he's looking at it, I want to control rootworm, and I don't want to stop as often for my rootworm material. Well, what kind of products are we developing to go through the SIMPAS system? We're developing, and again, this is targeted at 30-inch row crops, so we're not there on narrow crops today. That's something we're looking at down the road. Corn, soybeans, cotton, and peanuts in 30-inch configurations, both granule and liquid product options. We're looking at insecticides, nematicides, fungicides, micronutrients, PGRs, plant and soil health components, nitrogen fixers, nitrogen management products, as well as inoculants. Where are we so far? So here are some of the products we have available for corn. You'll notice AMVAC is a company that's been in the granular insecticide business for a long time. So some of these products are very familiar to you. These are not brand new off-the-shelf products. These are existing products that you've likely used, and you know how they work and you know how they function. The difference is now you can use them prescriptively at a varying rate based on your agronomic needs. So Counter is a great example. I've been selling Counter for 30 plus years, right? And the data has always said about 1/3 of the time when I'm doing a whole field application of Counter, I get a yield benefit across the whole field. 1/3 of the time I break even, and 1/3 of the time I get a big benefit. Now, you can just go apply that Counter to the 1/3 of the field where you get the big benefit, right? Products, corn insecticides, soil attacking pests, rootworm, seed corn maggots, wireworms, grubs, those types of things with our traditional granular insecticides. We have a micronutrient product from Bradesian that's a 10% zinc formulation. It was interesting when we first brought the zinc forward, we thought that's the way the grower will apply the majority of the zinc. What we found is the majority of growers with the system to date already have a zinc as part of their fertility program, and they're just using our zinc to top up or supplement within specific zones of the field. We have a soil health liquid product called Invigorate. It's a consortium of 23 different microbes, both aerobic and anaerobic. So it's set to mitigate a whole host of environmental stresses. The way we utilize this product is we say, where do you have those agronomic challenges? Maybe you got pH is out of whack, maybe you got compaction, maybe you have low-lying areas, maybe you have sandier, coarser soil areas. So again, where you have higher expectation of that stress occurring during the season, this is where these broad consortium type products tend to get the most benefit. We have a nitrogen fixing solution. There's a lot of these that have come onto the market. You've heard likely of Pivot Bio. Invita is from a product called Azotic. Invita is interesting because it can be used as a seed treatment, can be used in furrow, or can be used foliar. So we like it because of its versatility. We're selling it in this system as an in-furrow product, and we're taking a little different tact in the way they're positioning these products. The other systems that are applying these products today are making whole field applications or on-off decisions about a zone here or a zone there. We're able to treat by management zones. So if you think about where you're most at risk of losing nitrogen, right? Anywhere where water can stand, you can lose 4 to 6% of your nitrogen per day. Maybe you have coarser soils where you can get movement down in the soil. Maybe you have slope. Maybe you have a really high yielding zone where no matter what rate of synthetic nitrogen you're picking, you may be a little high or a little low somewhere else in the field. These types of products give you the ability to flex and adapt and fit an alternate nitrogen source to address those needs. On soybeans, we have the zinc product as well, not as useful in soybeans. We have the MicroSync iron. So you heard from New Leaf, and the BioWake product they talked about is also an AMVAC product that we're launching. So we're not only are we in the SIMPAS system, we're in the planter box system, we're in the smart box system, we're in the lock and load mechanical systems. Our goal is to work with a grower to find what's the application system that best fits your operation and solves your agronomic problems. So if you think about something like MicroSync iron, it's a supplemental iron source. Where would that be relevant? As you go to the northern Midwest, you have a lot of IDC, right? IDC can have a fairly substantial impact on your yield. So you think about a New Leaf seed box treatment that's helping make more iron available. Supplemental iron like MicroSync iron is also making more iron available. Certain varieties of beans have better tolerance in those environments. There are no silver bullets for IDC, but this just gives you one more arrow in your quiver, if you will, to go after those problem areas. They don't move from year to year. It's very easy to look at a satellite image, say, here's where I've had IDC in the past. You're going to continue to have IDC problems in those areas. So this allows you to just target those specific areas and only spend the input dollars where it does the most value. Thimet, you may say, why is a 40-year-old product like Thimet even on the list? So if any of you farm in western Iowa, eastern Nebraska, there's a new pest in town called the soybean gall midge. And that soybean gall midge has one stage of development as a maggot that moves into the stem. And so because it's in the stem, unless you have a systemic product that you're using at plant, there's really no way to get to that pest. So we've had success using Thimet 20G in soybeans. We've always had a soybean label. Thimet was typically used in other crops for controlling thrips or plant bugs or other species, but we're finding it also controls this soybean gall midge. And this started off in 2011, I think Nebraska identified it. In 2018, there was around 12 or 18 counties that were identified with soybean gall midge. In 2021, that count is now up to 140 counties. From central Missouri to the North Dakota line, about a third of Iowa, about a third of Nebraska now have this pest. What's interesting about this pest, or not interesting, but a fact about the pest, is they move in from the field border. They like brome, they like shelter belts. They come in, they only affect about the first 30 to 400 feet of a field. So you don't need to make a whole field application to control this type of a pest. So this gives you that option through a SIMPAS system. Ridimo Gold, another blast from the past, another product you might not have heard or used in recent years. Ridimo Gold granule is a methanoxin-based fungicide. It controls Pythium and some other soil diseases. So why would that be relevant? You got seed treatments as an option. You have other in-furrow treatments you can go to in your fertilizer.
This gives you more flexibility. If you have a seed treatment, a methanoxin-based seed treatment on your seed today, that buys you about 10 to 14 days of protection, right? As you go to an in-furrow application, based on dose rate, you can extend that level of protection. So at a 3-pound rate, you can buy yourself 30, 40 days. At a 5-pound rate, you can buy in excess of 40 days of protection. So you head to the field, you have your soybean treated with a methanoxin-based product, but now it looks like it's going to be a lot wetter than you anticipated, right? Is that 10 to 14 days going to get you? This type of a system now gives you the flexibility to adjust, adapt to the environment that you're planting into, and go out there and extend that level of protection, right? And then again, the Invigorate Envita product we also have available for soybeans. And you would say, well, why do I need a nitrogen fixer for soybeans, right? It's our opinion and the opinion of several others that as we start moving now into these 80 bushel soybeans, 90 bushel soybeans, 100 bushel soybeans, there's not enough inoculant you can put on. There's not enough available nitrogen there in the soil to get you to those levels of soybeans. So we believe nitrogen, whether it's in the form of at-plant starters or products like Envita, will be much more relevant as we move forward into these really high-yield soybean environments. Some other things about the system, it's a closed container system. There's no opening, mixing, pouring. You put the cartridge on and plant, right? So that adds some convenience factors. It's a returnable, refillable, reusable container. You only pay for what you use. So if you have 20 pounds in a cartridge and you only use 15 pounds, you pay for the 15 pounds, you return the rest, returnable, refillable, refill it back up, and sell it again the next season. There's an RFID tag on each and every cartridge, and that tag has several functions. One, it keeps track of every container. So every container has a unique identifier, right? It communicates with the planter. You got 3 products. Let's say you have a worker that goes to the field and slot number 1 is supposed to be an insecticide, slot 2 is a nematicide, and slot 3 is a micronutrient. And he gets them mixed up. When he goes to the cab, it will tell him you have the wrong product in slot 1 in row 12. So it knows what you're putting in there. The other thing that does is it knows what the product density is, and it knows to tell that meter, here's what you need to run at to apply this product correctly. So you calibrate the system initially, and then it adjusts based on the product and the tag telling it, here's the rate you need to run, or the shapefile is telling it what rate to run. It also has grower geospatial, so it creates an automated as-applied map at the end of the season. It tells you what's been dispensed, so from the tractor cab you can see what's left, how many acres I have to empty. It communicates with our smart fill system, so when I put a nematicide, it knows only a nematicide goes into that container, so they're dedicated containers. It can integrate with your retailer's accounting software and helps on inventory management as well. This is just, I'm going to skip the time, the video and installing a liquid meter. Again, it goes into the same space. The 2 on the left are granule. The 1 on the right would be a liquid. What's the potential value for your operation for using these types of products? Again, generally very familiar products. You can address untreated areas. So back to my counter analogy. If I only get a benefit on a third of the field, I can't afford to spend applying counter to the whole field. This now gives you the opportunity to target just the areas in the field where you get the greatest value for using that input. You can solve multiple agronomic issues in a single pass. Again, up to 3 products per row. It gives you a direct feedback mechanism, and I'll share a little bit more of that in a minute. So you can opt into a data analysis program that's about a $3 to $4 acre if you were to go out and say, I want to use Ag Veritas for spatial analysis. If you opt into that with the SIMPAS system, we will cover the cost of that spatial analysis. We'll give you a little bit of a discount on the product up front, but then we'll ask for a portion of the benefit if you get a benefit greater than a preset amount. Okay, so it gives you some flexibility and some spatial analysis information to help you refine those prescriptions as you go forward. So there's the potential for individual input savings, and I'll give you an anecdote from a grower we were talking to here recently. 1,800 acre grower. He had a 177 acre field that we were talking to him about prescription. He had an insecticide, he had a nematicide, and he had a micronutrient that he was going to apply to that 177 acres. If he applied all three of those products across the entire field at a fixed rate, his bill would have been $10,000. By prescriptively applying those three products, his bill on that 177 acres dropped by $4,500. As an 1,800 acre grower, the question is, now could you replicate that on your other fields and potentially see a $40,000 to $50,000 input savings in a year? Right? Again, it's going to depend on which products you're choosing, what's the environment you're going into. The other thing we've seen is you may have heard about some of these soil DNA testing companies. So there's a company called Pattern Ag that we've done some work with, where they can go and do soil DNAs. They'll do a 10, a 5, or 2.5 acre grid, and they can tell you, here's where you have rootworm larvae, here's where you have nematodes by species, here's where you have Pythium. So they can give you that kind of information. The question is, how do you make that information actionable? Right? You can use that information to create shapefiles, to create zones, and tell the SIMPAS system, deliver the products that addresses that within those specific zones. Right? You only pay for prescripted or treated, as applied acres, increased worker safety, and then there's some convenience elements as well. I use the term older as he wasn't much older than me, but he said, hey, when you get to the end of the day, lifting 50-pound bags or 60-pound cartridges can be a little tough. These are 20-pound cartridges each, or the liquids are about 2.5 gallons. The other interesting thing about the liquid, it's a ready-to-use liquid. There's no additional carrier. So we only have 2 of them developed so far, but essentially they're applying as a neat formulation, ready to use, from the cartridge directly to the furrow. So again, not all products will fit that type of a system. Some products may fit better into an at-plant fertilizer system. Some powder products will fit better into the planter box system. But for those products that can fit into this in-furrow system at a low rate, we think these are going to give you more options from an agronomic point of view. Here's an example of a field. This was in North Carolina. This particular problem had nematodes in the middle of the field and a pest called billbugs that just infest the perimeter of the field. So he did a perimeter treatment, plus he had a pretty well documented area from his soil testing of where he had nematodes. The map on the left is what he prescribed. The map on the right is what he actually applied. Here's another one from Bay, Arkansas. I think this was from 2020. Again, a field that he knew very well. He says, I know where my nematode problems are. They created this shapefile. The map on the left is the prescription. The map on the right is the as-applied data. In this particular case, he said that a 20 bushel benefit in addition to reduce his input cost by about 30%. So again, he's paying for the system quickly under those types of scenarios. So our tagline is apply exactly what's prescribed, precisely where you need it. We're building that portfolio product. My goal is to have 25 to 30 different products available by 2025. Today we have products that come from AMVAC. We have products that come from Syngenta. We have products that come from Verdesian. We're working with products from BASF. We have 3 or 4 fungicides. We have a mycorrhiza product. We have additional micronutrients. One new one this year is the MicroSync Pro from Verdesian. That was actually a request from a grower who said, hey, I don't have a starter fertilizer system. I don't want to put my micronutrient bundle into my broadcast fertilizer. I want it to be more specific than that. So again, we got requests from growers, do you have something more in the micronutrient bundle? So we approached Verdesian and we were able to work out a deal with them on MicroSync Pro. Yes, sir.
As a person is purchasing this, that